Welcome to this video. I'm your host, the Outdated Gen Z, and happy holidays to everyone. Particularly a Merry Christmas for me. Alright, so I'm gonna go through this as quickly as possible. I'm sure you don't really want a super long intro anyways. But yes, this video is all about the 5 Sonic Game Gear games that are 2D platformers. These aren't really that in-depth of reviews, but I will try to add some depth if needed to make the video a little bit longer, you know, just to make it a little bit more interesting. But I won't be mentioning any history related to these games. Maybe in the future, if I ever re-review these games one at a time, I'll probably mention the history then. But for now, this is part 1 of me reviewing every Sonic Game Gear game. I hope you enjoy. So the first game I'm taking a look at here is Sonic the Hedgehog, and just because it shares the same name as the Genesis or Mega Drive title, this game is completely different to match the hardware it's on. Gameplay-wise, it's certainly different from the Genesis game, but I wouldn't call it bad. Sonic is a lot slower, but there are some speed elements in this game still, mostly being in the first level in this game, just like the Genesis version. So yeah, both Genesis Sonic 1 and Game Gear Sonic 1 have a lot in common. They both share some zone themes, which I'll get to in a bit, and every level minus the first one has a very platforming over speed level design. It's not bad, of course, but especially with this version of Sonic 1 being really slow, you can compare this easily to any slower 2D platformer. But anyways, the 6 Chaos Emeralds are still here from the Genesis version, but instead of finding them in special stages, you find them hidden around the level. Sometimes it might be in the first act, and sometimes it might be in the second act. Now once again, finding similarities to the Genesis version, there are also 3 acts per zone, the third act being where the bosses are held. Now these bosses are not only really stupid, they're also bold too. For one, you don't have access to any rings in the boss acts, but you can sneak in a shield from a previous act if you're good enough though. But still, at least 1 ring would have been nice for these. Anyways, let me quickly pound through these zones. First up, we could have Green Hill. With the first act, it's mostly speed oriented like the Genesis version, but then the second act is slower and also has water, which I found kind of weird, but I do appreciate that they did something different. Second up, we got Bridge. It had promise with the first act. Then the second act was an auto-scroller. There was this one section that had no warning that I was supposed to jump all the way to the top. Sure, I've remembered a section like that in this game as I played it before, but I still find that kind of unfair level design. Next is Jungle. I kinda like this zone. The first act was great and super well designed even for it being less speed-based, but then the second act was a vertical level, which I found to be pretty funny. Next is Labyrinth. This is easily the worst zone in the game. The water segments are way slower than the Genesis version. That's it. That's all I got to say about it. But on the bright side, you don't drown in Act 3 even though that the boss takes place underwater, which was pretty nice. Next is Scrap Brain. This zone I found to be pretty interesting. The second act was a maze. It was definitely a highlight in my personal bad opinion. But now, the last zone here is Skybase. Act 1 has these electric things you have to dodge, which was fun, and Act 2, I couldn't really tell you because I was getting the Chaos Emerald for the level, and I did not set a save state for this act to replay it. The final boss is super easy, by the way. Even though that there's a lot going on, don't stress, it's easy. Also, the good ending is weirdly funny to me. But there you go, that's Sonic 1 Game Gear. It's pretty good, as long as you have the standards knowing this is a Game Gear game. So basically, yeah, it's nothing special. So yeah, that was Sonic 1 Game Gear, but I have a special guest for this particular game. So may I present to you, CampbellVDL.
Hello everybody! It's your favorite YouTuber whose name starts with C, ends with L, and in the middle is CampbellVD. Yes, it's me, Campbell Vanderlooby, and I'm here for another banging collab. Onto the video. Today I'm here to talk about my favorite Sonic Game Gear game. Or maybe the one I hate the least, because they're all pretty shit. So the game I hated the least out of the bunch is literally the first one they made. Sonic 1, 8-bit, for the Game Gear. Sonic 1 came out on the Game Gear in November of 1991, 5 months after its 16-bit counterpart on the Mega Drive.
Sonic 1 8-bit has the same moves found in the 16-bit version, however, the controls are way worse,
with slippery physics, bad jump height and air drag, and when paired with the slower level design, it just creates a very different experience and one that is much worse. The levels in this game are very different from the 16-bit version, except for some of the level aesthetics. The 6 levels are Green Hill, Bridge Zone, Jungle Zone, Labyrinth Zone, Scrap Brain Zone, and Sky Base Zone. The Game Gear version adds 3 returning zones from the Mega Drive, and adds 3 new ones in Bridge, Jungle, and Sky Base Zone. Not unlike Sonic 1 on the Mega Drive, Sonic 1 on the Game Gear, damn. Okay, I cannot be bothered to refer to each game like this, so Sonic 1 on the Mega Drive will be referred to as Sonic 1, and the Game Gear version, I don't know, Sonic Ooh, because that's how I feel about it. Anyway, Sonic 1 Ooh, like Sonic 1, has many levels that are more focused on platforming, like a Mario game, and here it's even worse. Because of the hardware of the Game Gear, the levels are much less complicated, less dense, and less focused on blitzing speed and more on slower basic platforming. The level design is very ish, and it doesn't really feel like Sonic. The only part that does is the visuals, and yeah, the visuals are actually really nice considering the hardware limitations. I really like Bridge Zone and Skybase, and every stage looks quite nice. Also, the music is not that bad either. Songs like Bridge Zone stand out to me, and surprisingly, my eardrums don't get mutilated by awful sounds like whatever the hell this is on the Mega Drive. For this video, I played the game through Sonic Origins, since I don't have a Game Gear, because why the hell would I? And it ran like shit! I don't know how they managed to replicate the frame dips, lag spikes, and dog shit hardware of the Game Gear in a new game. Like, bro, how? Anyway, please tell me if the game actually runs this bad on the original console, because I hope not. On to some more specific gameplay changes, which I'm sure Keiran has already covered, so I'll just breeze by. Running and jumping is pretty much the same, except for the previously mentioned physics difference. The rings have been changed, so if you get hit, only 1 drops, which leads to more challenge. The Chaos Emeralds are just scattered around the stages, and the special stages are just bonus zones where you can get more points. And what I hate most are the bosses. Oh my god, these bosses suck ass. For one, you don't get any rings, so you get hit, you lose. The attack patterns are dumb, and being on such a small screen, it's extremely hard to dodge Eggman's stupid ass attacks. The only change I actually like is the sprite. The sprite in this game looks pretty nice and really cute and stylistic, which I like more than the 16-bit purple looking ass Sonic. Now, you might be thinking at this point, well, why the heck did you not pick a game like Triple Trouble or Chaos for your favorite Game Gear games, since those are much more unique and ambitious? Well, my response to that is I frickin' hate the controls and sprites, and I can't even beat the first stages without quitting because of boredom and annoyedness. There it is, I said it. I hate those games with all my heart. The first time I played Sonic Ooh was through a fan remake for my phone. Yes, I know, you can come kill me after this. This is Sonic SMS Remake, and it truly provides you with a good way to play this mid-game. This remake adds widescreen, many fixes to gameplay, and it added lots of new content, making an actual nice experience, unlike whatever I had to play on Sonic Origins. So that was Sonic Sonic 1 on the Game Gear, and honestly, I would not recommend this to anyone. Maybe except Hillary Goldstein of IGN, because you cannot call Sonic Unleashed a dog shit experience, give it a 4, then go on and give Sonic 4 an 8, and say Sega is back. We can't let them get away with this. Come on, guys. Anyway, thanks for having me. Merry Christmas, everybody, and have a great day.
So there you go, that was Campbell's view of Sonic 1 Game Gear. We don't have the exact same views, but you know what, I think it's kind of fair for him to think like that, because it is a Sonic Game Gear game after all. But for now, on to the next Sonic Game Gear game that I'm going to be reviewing, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 Game Gear. Unlike Sonic 1 Game Gear being more of an alternate take of Sonic 1, I'd personally say this can be considered part of the Sonic timeline if you really think about it. Not only was it released before the Genesis version, but as well the storyline actually has Tails being kidnapped. Gameplay wise, it's pretty much the exact same as Sonic 1 Game Gear, or is the exact same. So yeah, no spin dash still. Also, I find it pretty weird that each title card shows Tails even though that he's kidnapped and he's not even playable later on in this game. But anyways, the Chaos Emeralds are still all found lying around the levels, this time exclusively being in Act 2 of each zone, except for the last zone which you get by defeating the boss in Act 3, and the true last zone which is unlockable after getting all the Chaos Emeralds. Speaking of bosses, the bosses are still really unfair because you can't collect any rings in Act 3, and as well you can't do the shield trick I mentioned from Sonic 1 because there's no shields in this game. But anyways, time to move on to the zones. Starting off with Underground. Honestly, props to them to not do a Green Hill-esque starting zone. Although I'm cool with Green Hill Zone clones, I do appreciate this fully original zone. Except the boss here is very hard for a first zone. Next is Sky High. I honestly like the glider gimmick in this level. At first I was confused on how it worked until I applied my Super Mario World knowledge with gliding, and it was easy to control. I also wasn't expecting a boss with multiple phases. Next is Aqua Lake, another horrible water stage because the Game Gear sucks. I really hated this one part with the bubble. I genuinely didn't realize I had to control the bubble's speed. But the boss? It's good. Next is Green Hills. Not Green Hill. Green Hills. I'm sure multiple other YouTubers that unironically reviewed the Sonic Game Gear games made that joke before. I like the music in this level. Its melody later got used for the Japanese intro of Sonic City, which is cool. Level design wise though, it's pretty fast paced. But anyways, the boss sucks, but it does have a cool idea. Next is Gimmick Mountain. As the name implies, there are gimmicks in this mountain, and I like them because I'm weird like that. The boss is pretty easy, by the way. Next is Scrambled Egg, a really bullshit zone. I had to use a walkthrough because it's just a maze. Sure, I defended Sonic 1's Scrap Brain Act 2, but Scrambled Egg is nothing but a maze, and there are way more options to screw up. The boss here is Silver Sonic, I think. I still don't know what all these robot Sonics are called. And finally, to wrap this game up, we got the unlockable zone, Crystal Egg. It's a surprisingly chill zone for being the true final level. Even the final boss is chill too. All you do is play the waiting game with Robotnik and then you're good. And yes, to continue another funny, yes, Sonic and Tails are both dead in the good ending. But Sonic 2 Game Gear overall, I think is a really good game. Once again, more of a novelty to play these days, but it is a lot more interesting than Sonic 1. I'd suggest giving this one a go if you need to kill an hour or so. But the third game I'm checking out here is Sonic Chaos, and I must say right away, it's a surprisingly good Sonic Game Gear game. I will admit it's pretty short since the levels are easy to blast through in under a minute, but aside from that, this game is pretty incredible. For the first time, you get the option to either play as Sonic or Tails. Tails can of course fly, but the spin dash is finally here for the first time as well, and a new move exclusive to Sonic here. We got the Super Payload from Sonic CD for no reason, but it's cool that it's here anyway. The bosses are really fun as well. You can have rings in these boss acts for once compared to Sonic 1 and 2, which is amazing, but these are genuinely just decent bosses for a Sonic Game Gear game. Also, the special stages are just little fun challenges mostly themed around the different power-ups in this game, at least from what I can tell from only playing the first 3 special stages. I would have gotten all the Chaos Emeralds, but I really didn't want to get 100 rings intentionally in each stage. But for now, let's quickly grind through these zones. First up, we have Turquoise Hill. It's a Green Hill Zone clone, but once again, I defend Green Hill clones, so it's all cool. Especially with lots of easy access to the new rocket boots. Second here, we got Gigaopolis, or I guess according to the Game Gear version, Gigapolis Zone. I don't particularly have anything to say about this one other than it looks cool, and it has the boss that later got reused for Sonic Mania. The next one here is Sleeping Egg. I never really understood why it's called Sleeping Egg, but anyways, it's just a typical zone, but lots of the level geometry breaks when Sonic touches it. Next zone here is Mecha Green Hill. It's basically a Green Hill type level, but with lots of mechanical looking stuff. That's really about it. It was fun though. Next zone here is Aqua Planet. This zone is kind of like Aquatic Ruin from the Genesis Sonic 2. You can avoid all the water by staying on the top route, but of course you need to know what you're doing to do so. And the final zone here is Electric Egg. To be honest, I really like this zone. It was pretty fun for a final level. No more mazes from Sonic 1 and 2, just a very basic yet slightly difficult zone to blast through. The final boss though, you can cheese this thing easily. Now Sonic Chaos, for me personally, I had my fun with it. But it's weirdly still a nothing game. You can play as Tails, but there's nothing there. But it is fun, don't get me wrong, because I did say that it was a pretty good Sonic Game Gear game. But anyways, on to Sonic Triple Trouble. Now this Game Gear game right here, this is a Sonic game I'd be down for a full-blown remake. And thankfully with the fan project Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit remake, it did. But anyways, gameplay-wise, it's very similar to Sonic Chaos. You can play as either Sonic or Tails, all of their moveset from Chaos is still here, but now to add extra strategy, you can curl up into the ball for a second or so in the air if you're left open from bouncing on a spring, for example. As well, you can access the special stages by getting 50 rings, then finding a Chaos Emerald monitor hidden around the stage. You can get the first 5 Chaos Emeralds this way, and honestly, these are pretty cool. The special stages are either a challenging 2D stage that's on a timer, or a fake 3D tornado stage. But regardless, it all ends with a battle against Fang. Oh, and yeah, this game was Fang's first introduction. It kind of sucks that he's just a side boss you can avoid by skipping the special stages, but regardless, he's a good addition. As well, Knuckles is a problem with this game. He appears in some zone transitions, and he has one boss fight in the entire game. Oh, and Metal Sonic is just a random boss fight right before the final boss. Anyways, the game starts off with great Turquoise Zone. It's easily comparable to Turquoise Hill from Sonic Chaos, minus the name. It has the same kind of flow, but with a lot more springs here and there. The second zone here is Sunset Park, definitely one of my favorite zones in this game. It's pretty fast-paced for the Game Gear, it has some fun gimmicks, and it even has a cool auto-scrolling Act 3 with its own special music and everything. The next zone here is Meta Jungle area. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, probably not, but anyways, I just remembered the zone as the one with the most springs. Nothing else of value. But now for Robotnik Winter here. Man, it's a banger. It's basically just a Game Gear take on Ice Cap Zone from Sonic 3, and it's just incredible. It has some snowboarding sections, and it's surprisingly fast-paced. Easily my favorite zone in this game. On to Tidal Plant Zone here. It's the water stage for this game. It's fine, I guess. Actually, no, not really. I got really lost in the zone for a while, so I'm saying it's bull or I have a skill issue. And the final zone here is Atomic Destroyer. Although this zone can be a bull maze like Tidal Plant, I think I'll give this zone a pass, mostly because the first phase of the final boss is really funny. Now, like I said earlier, this is the kind of game that deserves a full remake, but I'm only saying that because I think more people should play this one. Most people won't really play a stupid little Game Gear game just because someone like me said so. So a full official remake would definitely do this game some justice. But for now, like I said, we do have the banger Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit fan remake to tide us over. But finally, it's time to check out the last 2D Sonic platformer on the Game Gear. Sonic Blast. Alright, let's get this over with. This game kind of looks like shit. It uses pre-rendered 3D graphics, kind of like Donkey Kong Country, or I guess more easily comparable Sonic 3D Blast. In my personal opinion, it just looks plain. They added the pre-rendered graphics, and that's it. It's just really plain. Gameplay-wise though, this game is actually pretty decent. It controls surprisingly well. You can play as either Sonic or Knuckles. Sonic no longer has the Super Pilo, but that doesn't matter. His new double jump is a lot more useful, and Knuckles, of course, has his signature colliding and climbing walls. The special stages in this game are okay. They're not bad, but they aren't really that forgiving as you go on. Also as well, you can only get the Chaos Emeralds from entering a special stage in Act 2. In Act 1, you can only get an extra life. But at least these special stages are accessed Sonic 3 style and are just hidden around the stages. The way it should be. Anyways, every zone is named after a color, so you already know that the first zone in this game is Green Hill. There's nothing really that interesting, it's just a basic level. You're going to hear that a lot with this game. The second zone here is Yellow Desert. It's a basic desert level. It has this random pick a path section in Act 2, and that's about it. The third zone here is Red Volcano. It's a lava themed level, of course. It was a blast to go through though, especially the boss. I really liked it. The fourth zone here is Blue Marine. It's a really shitty water level. Slowest a Game Gear water level has ever been. And finally, the final zone here is Silver Castle. For one, I really like that name for a final zone. It's different and fun. Level design wise though, it throws a bunch of traps in you and that's about it. Nothing too crazy. The boss is really cool though. The final boss was pretty meh though. I do appreciate the crazy amount of rings you get when you start the boss though. Okay, so Sonic Blast, I think it was fun when I played it. It could have been way worse, but this game is not memorable. Minus the bosses though, I really love those for some reason. I have nothing else to say about this game compared to the other games I talked about in this video. I just have to end it off here. Sorry Sonic Blast fans.
Well, there you go.
there's all the Sonic Game Gear games that I'm going to be reviewing for now. And honestly, even though some of these Sonic Game Gear games right here are actually bangers, I understand if you personally don't want to play these games at all and just prefer to watch videos about them, so there you go. At least this video wasn't completely useless to make. But yeah, I'm still gonna love some of these Game Gear games, but for now, I'll see you in the next one, and the one after that.